Ever feel like you're drowning in information? You want to understand the important stuff, but who has time to actually read all those books and studies?
Right. Well, that's why you're here with us on the deep dive. We do the heavy lifting so you can get smart fast on the topics that matter. And today we're diving headfirst into Dan Ariely's Predictably Irrational supplement.
Absolutely. And this supplement really gets into the nitty-gritty. It goes beyond just the concepts and actually shows you the experiments, the data, all that juicy stuff that reveals why we make, well, predictably irrational choices.
Yeah, and we're going to focus on three key areas from this supplement. First up, how our tendency to compare things, everything's relative, how that can really mess with our decision-making.
Such a human thing to do, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Second, we'll tackle this wild idea of anchoring and how it throws a wrench in the whole concept of supply and demand.
Yeah.
Turns out the first price you see for something can really stick in your mind.
Oh, it totally can. It's like your brain latches onto that number, even if it's completely random, and uses it as a baseline for what that thing is worth. Exactly. It's crazy. And then finally, we're going to explore how emotions can hijack our rational brains, that whole hot versus cold state thing. It's amazing how different we can be when we're fired up compared to when we're calm and collected.
Oh yeah, we know how we'll react in certain situations, but emotions take over and it's a whole different ballgame.
So yeah, those are the big three, but we'll also touch on some word puzzles and a section on dishonesty. Just a little teaser of what else you can find in this source.
Lots of fascinating stuff in there.
But for today, our mission is to equip you with those three core concepts from Ariely's work. You ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay, so chapter 1 dives right into this idea that everything is relative even when it shouldn't be. And, we're not talking about Einstein's theory of relativity here. This is about how we constantly size things up in comparison to other things, even when those comparisons are totally irrelevant.
Right. It's like our minds are wired to look for reference points. It's how we make sense of the world. But the problem is we can get so caught up in those comparisons that we end up making choices that aren't actually in our best interests.
It's like we're always trying to figure out what's the better deal, what's the smarter choice, but sometimes that leads us down a very irrational path.
Exactly. And Ariely has some brilliant examples of this in action.
Oh, for sure. Let's say you're shopping for a new laptop, right? There's one for, let's say, $1,200, and it has all the features you need. But then you spot another one for $1,800 with a few extra bells and whistles, maybe a slightly better screen or a faster processor. Stuff you probably won't even use.
I've been there.
Right. And at first you're thinking, okay, the $1,200 one seems pretty good. But then a third laptop pops up. This one's a whopping $2,500, and it's loaded with all kinds of fancy features that you definitely don't need. Suddenly, that $1,800 laptop doesn't seem so outrageously expensive anymore. In fact, it starts to look like a pretty reasonable middle ground option.
It's like magic. That $2,500 laptop, even though you'd never actually buy it, totally changes your perception of the $1,800 one.
Right. It's called the decoy effect, and it's a classic example of relative thinking in action. You're not evaluating the $1,800 laptop based on its own merits. You're judging it in comparison to that more expensive option, and that comparison makes it seem more appealing.
And it happens all the time. Like when you see those three-tiered pricing options for software subscriptions, they often include a ridiculously expensive option that no one buys just to make the middle tier seem like a better value.
Yeah, those are sneaky. So that's relativity in a nutshell. Our brains are comparison machines. We're always looking for a benchmark, even when that benchmark doesn't make any logical sense.
It's a hardwired bias. But once you're aware of it, you can start to catch yourself in the act and maybe make more rational decisions.
Absolutely. Awareness is key. Okay, so let's move on to chapter 2, the fallacy of supply and demand. Now, this one really challenges a fundamental economic principle, the idea that prices are determined by supply and demand, how much of something there is and how badly people want it. But Ariely argues that there's something else at play here, something called anchoring.
And anchoring is all about how the first price we see for something creates this anchor in our minds. It influences how much we're willing to pay for similar things later on, even if that initial price was completely arbitrary.
Yeah, it's almost like that first number you encounter sets a standard in your brain, and it's surprisingly difficult to shake off that influence.
It's like a cognitive shortcut. Our brains love patterns, and anchors provide a quick and easy way to make judgments about value. But the problem is, those anchors can be totally irrelevant to the actual worth of the thing we're considering.
And the data in this chapter is pretty eye-opening. Ariely did this experiment where he asked people how much they'd be willing to pay for various products. But here's the twist. He also asked them for the last two digits of their social security numbers.
Now, your social security number has absolutely nothing to do with the value of a cordless trackball or a box of chocolates, right?
Not at all. It's completely random. But guess what? There was a clear correlation between those SSN digits and the prices people were willing to pay.
It's mind-boggling, isn't it?
Totally. So, for example, people whose SSN ended in the numbers between 00 and 19 were on average willing to pay about $8.64 for a cordless trackball. But those whose SSN ended between 80 and 99 said they'd pay an average of $26.18 for the exact same product.
It's a huge difference.
I know, right? And it wasn't just the trackball. They saw similar patterns for cordless keyboards, design books, fancy chocolates, even bottles of wine. It was like those last two digits of their SSN were creating an anchor in their minds that influenced how much they valued these items.
And the correlation numbers they found really drive this point home. They range from 0.32 to 0.52, which means there was a statistically significant relationship between those arbitrary SSN digits and people's willingness to pay. It's pretty wild.
It's amazing how easily our sense of value can be manipulated by something as meaningless as the last two digits of our social security number. So the next time you think you're getting a great deal, ask yourself, is that feeling really based on the actual value of the product, or is it influenced by some random anchor that's stuck in your brain?
It's a question worth asking,
Mm,
because chances are we're all more susceptible to anchoring than we realize.
for sure. Okay, so we've talked about relativity and anchoring. Now let's shift gears and explore the impact of emotions on our decision-making. Chapter 5, The Influence of Arousal, delves into this fascinating idea that we're essentially different people when we're in a hot state compared to a cold state. You know, when our emotions are running high versus when we're calm and collected.
And this isn't just about feeling happy or sad. It's about any kind of emotional arousal. Anger, fear, excitement, sexual desire. These states can dramatically alter how we think and behave.
Totally. Like, we might make promises to ourselves when we're calm and rational about how we'll act in certain situations, but then those emotions kick in and all bets are off.
It's like our rational brain takes a back seat and our emotional brain takes the wheel.
And the research in this chapter really highlights how drastic these shifts can be. There's this table where people rated how attractive they found different activities in both non-aroused and aroused states, and the results are pretty shocking. For example, the percentage of people who found the idea of being attracted to a 12-year-old girl somewhat or very appealing jumped from 23% in the non-aroused state to 46% when they were aroused.
That's more than double.
I know, right? And it's not just about sexual preferences. The willingness to imagine having sex with someone 60 years old also skyrocketed in the aroused state. It more than tripled.
It's like arousal lowers our inhibitions and broadens our horizons in ways that we might not even recognize when we're in a calmer state.
And it's not just about what we find attractive. The data also shows that our moral compass can go haywire when we're emotionally charged. For example, the willingness to keep trying to have sex with someone who has already said no more than doubled in the aroused state. And the willingness to consider giving a woman a drug to increase the chances of sex went up by an astounding 420%.
Those are some really disturbing findings. It shows just how much our judgment can be impaired when we're in a heightened emotional state.
And it's not just about extreme scenarios. Even something as simple as using a condom can be affected by arousal. The study found that the stated likelihood of using a condom with a new partner dropped from 88% in a non-aroused state to 69% when aroused.
That's a pretty significant drop, and it could have serious consequences.
Exactly. And it's not just about using a condom in general. The willingness to use one, even if a woman might change her mind while you go get it, also decreased significantly in the aroused state.
It highlights how important it is to be aware of these potential pitfalls. Our intentions when we're calm and rational might not translate into action when we're in the heat of the moment.
So the takeaway here is that you can't always rely on your good intentions to guide your behavior, especially when emotions are involved. It's crucial to recognize that you might act differently in those situations and to plan accordingly. Maybe that means having a conversation with your partner beforehand about your boundaries, or setting clear limits for yourself when it comes to spending money or making other important decisions.
It's all about being prepared and understanding the potential influence of your emotions. Because as Ariely's work shows, we're all predictably irrational in certain ways.
For sure. Okay, so before we wrap things up, we wanted to give you a quick glimpse of some other intriguing topics that Ariely covers in his supplement. Chapter 10 features some clever word puzzles, things like anagrams, that can really mess with how your brain processes information. And Chapter 11 delves into the often surprising reasons behind why we might act dishonestly, even when we don't consider ourselves to be dishonest people.
Yeah, those are definitely worth checking out.
We won't be diving into those in detail today, but they're just a taste of the wealth of insights that you can find in Ariely's work. And just to give you a sense of the rigorous research behind all of these concepts, it's worth noting the impressive list of collaborators who contributed to this supplement. They represent a wide range of prestigious institutions, including MIT, UC, San Diego, London Business School, and many others. It's a testament to the depth and breadth of this research.
Absolutely. It's a collaborative effort from some of the brightest minds in behavioral economics.
So let's recap what we've learned in this deep dive into Predictably Irrational supplement. We explored how our tendency to think relatively can lead to some questionable choices. We uncovered the hidden power of anchoring and how it can skew our perception of value. And we examined the dramatic impact of arousal on our judgment and decision-making.
And most importantly, we've highlighted how understanding these predictable irrationalities can help you make better decisions in your own life.
Exactly. It's all about awareness. Once you recognize these patterns, you can start to anticipate them and hopefully avoid falling into the same traps. So as you go about your day, we challenge you to think about these concepts. How might relativity, anchoring, and arousal be influencing your choices? Are you comparing yourself to others in ways that aren't helpful? Are you letting arbitrary numbers sway your spending habits? Are you making decisions in the heat of the moment that you later regret?
Food for thought, right.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear your reflections on these ideas and any questions you might have. Your feedback helps us shape future deep dives, so keep those comments coming. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Until next time, happy diving.